You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating talk radio. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Doctor, tell me true. What's a heart like mine supposed to do?
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So an absolutely devastating last couple days with the loss of Dolly Parton at age 80. Just found out Tim Curry died at the age of 80. Tim Curry had had a stroke multiple years ago, and he had been suffering from health issues. Again, one of my favorite actors, especially loved him in Oscar. She has such nicely rounded diphthongs. Yeah, that's what got her into this trouble. I just love Tim Curry, big Tim Curry fan, and to see, Rocky Horror Picture Show, all the things he had done, Home Alone 2, to see him gone is devastating. May his family find strength during this difficult time. Dolly's passing. I get off air yesterday. I don't know what I was doing, probably singing, whatever. And I get the news that she's gone, and I mean, wow, I almost fell to my knees. I didn't think I would look at this. It's Dolly Parton, somebody you grew up with, someone I think I was connected to Dolly Parton because my nickname was Dolly, until I started having people call me Dahlia when I was getting older, because I really, really liked my original name, Dolly. I was called Dolly, and so everybody would kind of, make Dolly Parton jokes. And I like Dolly Parton. In fact, it was interesting because I remember I was talking with my friends in the 80s, and I'm like, oh, I love country. And they're like, really? More than rock? And I go, no, I love rock, but no, I love country too. They're like, well, really? And like, yeah, Dolly Parton. I am Billy Ray Cyrus. And I mean, Dolly got me into country, not to mention just, whether she was a country singer or not, her voice, I mean, just angelic, and her range, and doing, the runs and the vibrato, just so talented. And not only was she so beautiful on the outside, and her voice was so beautiful, but also on the inside, all her charity work that she had done, with increasing children's literacy, because her father struggled with reading, and helping those who were devastated by floods, and hurricanes, and the money she would give them for their homes. Just so beautiful. Stayed out of politics, which is why, I mean, everybody is just in mourning over her. Trump has had the flags down at half staff for at least a week in her passing. And so, what Dolly kind of symbolized was, you could be a good person, and you could do what you need to do, and not have to make enemies by doing it. And she, was a person of faith. She was married to her husband for decades, and was so close. Family was really important to her. And, people, gave her, at first some, criticism over her body shape and being busty, but she was cute. She was adorable. And what I found fascinating was when I was a little kid, 9 to 5 came out, right? Tumble out of bed and stumble to the kitchen. So I'm watching the 9 to 5 movie. And what I found was fascinating about about Dolly Parton was, here she is, beautiful bombshell. And there were all these stereotypes about women, and especially blonde, and especially those who were busty, and and how they, are stereotyped as unintelligent or sleeping to the top. And I thought her role in 9 to 5 was brilliant. She's like, I didn't sleep with them. I'm trying to do my job. Not my fault. I got, great body. And she not only on film dispelled a lot of that BS and a lot of that. And then in real life, what did she do? In real life, she exemplified, look, I'm a pretty smart woman. And I think she wrote how many songs? Like thousands upon thousands of songs. I Will Always Love You. It was interesting when Whitney Houston's song, I Will Always Love You, came out. I mean, I was addicted. I loved Whitney Houston. And I go, she didn't write the song. That was Dolly Parton. I just always knew the song. Well, I think I knew all the words. They're like, man, you learned that song fast. I go, well, no, I learned it because that was Dolly Parton's song. And Whitney Houston, her rendition though is the one that I probably listened to more than anything else, because what Whitney Houston did to that song, very difficult to elevate an already amazing song like Whitney Houston did, but. She did, but I just knew her music, and I think a lot of us did. And also, when you look at Dolly, when you think of Dolly, it's all positivity, right? I mean, even with a lot of her songs, it was just, what was it like? Is it the tide's gonna turn, it's all gonna roll your way? It was just very inspiring and very uplifting that you're gonna things are gonna go your way. Just hang in there. And so to me, she symbolized positivity. She symbolized brilliance. She symbolized beauty. She symbolized talent and charity. Now, I know many of you want me to comment on what happened to her medically. All we know is that she was struggling with kidney issues, autoimmune issues, and cancer. When I believe it was her family member, I think it was her sister, who was talking about, saying send prayers, and and I think Dolly's Las Vegas residency had to be put on hold. The first thing I thought of was cancer, and sadly, when people outlive heart disease and everything else, and they make it to their 70s and 80s, unfortunately, sometimes the big C is waiting for us in some way or another, like we're now seeing with Joe Biden. And so I suspected cancer. The family is right now wanting to keep the privacy. Know a lot of you want me to comment on if her COVID vaccine was related. This is going to be something that I don't think we're going to have any answer to. I want to say unlikely, being her age, and that her last COVID vaccine was in March of 2021. She advocated the COVID vaccine in Tennessee. Was very public about it. In fact, I think she made the Jolene song, "Vaccine, Vaccine," right? So she, because again, she wants to save lives. She's very altruistic. Community and public health was something that was at her forte, and a focus. We'll talk more about, could there be oncogenic issues with previous vaccines, being that this was 5 years prior? Unlikely. But Godspeed. I'm going to miss her. And I got to tell you, man, I keep tearing up. Love Dolly. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So Meta has now agreed to a $17.1 billion settlement from a federal lawsuit, I believe class action, against Harms and them being implicated in the youth mental health crisis. This settlement curtailed, from what I understand, was about to be like a 7-week long trial. Jurors, I believe, have been dismissed, and Meta has reached a settlement. This does not mean that Meta will not face any more legal action. Apparently, there are still parents of victims and individuals and companies that can still sue. But in terms of states and the multiple states that have filed suits, multiple payments are going to be made out. These include, I believe, the $16.7 billion is going to settle the consolidated federal trial brought by dozens of states, co-led by California. The Texas carve-out, separate from the multi-state group, Texas secured its own $1 billion payout from Meta, according to CNBC. Cambridge Analytica resolution, $459 million. Is supposed to be within that to resolve unrelated lingering consumer claims. The peer contingency rule, according to this, I believe, 24/7 Wall Street, participating states are immediately going to receive 70% of the allocated funds. The remaining 30%, or $5.3 billion, will only be paid out if Meta's market rivals TikTok and YouTube implement similar age assurance guardrails and match the commitments. So the multi-billion-dollar settlement is going to be paid out in a series of 10 years, and looks like part of it is contingent on your other platforms also, doing similar, safeguards and guardrails. And what was very, very interesting is I really wanted to see what the defense was going to say. Defense was going to say, look, are really $17 billion in damages is really that the damages that the states earn, is that warranted? Another thing that they were going to present was you have something popular. When is something popular and when is something addictive? And that is a very interesting conversation we need to have. Personally, if Meta, how I feel, is if Meta had if there was proof that they were aware, and that's what we're being told, that there were internal communications, that they knew that there was risk, and if they didn't act on it, well, now they're in trouble. Just like what happened with the McDonald's hot coffee thing. Yeah, I spoke to one of the attorneys that worked on that case. He said the problem with the McDonald's, remember there was a woman who got coffee and then she burned her leg and then she won, millions of dollars. The problem with that is they were previously and repeatedly told that the temperature on their coffee and their hot machines was over the limit, and that they were supposed to they were supposed to repair or resolve those issues. Because those issues weren't resolved, now you have somebody getting hurt. There's no defense. You're in trouble. So with Meta, if that is what appears to be the case, they were going to have a tough time fighting it. A lot of people said, well, they could fight it because, where's the parents? Why aren't the parents involved? The problem we've had is people have died, and they have been linking those deaths to predators, to kidnappings, to being bullied online. If these kids are being told on these platforms to go kill themselves, and they do, there's a connection there. And do I really believe that Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and all that, do I really believe they're the most evil companies? No, I don't. But the problem we have is, especially with the pediatric population, is something popular does become obsessed on. Now, I grew up in the 80s. So in the 80s, I remember everybody was obsessed about E.T. I was like, it was a good movie, but right? Smurfs, I was like, eh. But one of my really, really good friends, Michelle, okay? Don't want to give her last name. I miss her. And she's a good girl. The Chiquita Banana commercials, I don't know if you remember, I'm a Chiquita Banana. They would have stickers on these Chiquita Bananas. And the stickers would be different characters. So she would start collecting those stickers. Now here's a competition. I want Chiquita Banana stickers. And you started to obsess about getting these Chiquita Banana stickers and put them all over your folder and remember we had those ugly yellow folders, right? That we couldn't stand, right? So and so all of a sudden, my mom's like, what is your obsession with bananas? Oh, I can't stand bananas. Well, then why do you want me to keep buying bananas? Because I want the little Chiquita Banana sticker. And great marketing from the Chiquita Banana Company. But one thing kids do is then that just becomes a thing overnight. I don't know whatever happened to Pet Rock. The Pet Rock was before my time, but from what I heard, people were absolutely ridiculous when it came to the Pet Rock. And then Cabbage Patch Kids. That I never understood. I just what? So these viral obsessions happen. The problem is with these social networks, it's not just a bunch of kids being in their small little friend group, right, on a corner of the playground. Now their playground is, middle-aged men and women, drug dealers, cartel, terrorists having access to them. There needs to be some better controls. So in this settlement, Meta has to make some changes. And let me see if I have some of these. So one is, this is outlined in court filings by U.S. District Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers. This, I believe, was done in California. So Meta is forced to implement these sweeping product overhauls, according to NPR. The apps have to implement a default 2-hour daily limit for teens that can only be extended with verified parental consent. It will also feature nighttime or default nighttime blocks from midnight to 6 a.m. and muted notifications during school hours. So rather than these push notifications that these kids are getting, oh, so-and-so just posted a picture, or so-and-so liked your post, or so-and-so commented. So then they stop listening to the teacher, and then they have to go on and see what happened. No. I keep getting this, on Instagram. They liked your post. Somebody commented on your post. Okay, well, that's nice, and I'll look at it later. But, they know how to do the push notifications, which you have to disable. They're now going to automatically disable. The aesthetic and social safeguards. Meta must remove cosmetic surgery simulation filters that psychologists link to negative social comparison and limit visible like tallies on minor accounts. So, I would really like to have access to some of these cosmetic surgery filters, but a lot of these you can filter, and I know I have access to it, and you can make yourself a cat, and you can make yourself look all pretty, and you can make yourself look all whatever. I don't do it because obviously people know what I look like. Photoshop doesn't handle it. I'm not going to go any deeper with that. But, apparently people are making themselves look like somebody they're not, and then these likes are attracting not only predators, but then, somebody didn't like what I posted. Now they get depressed. Or you get 8,000 likes on something, and now here they are. They think they're a celebrity. Children struggle with this, especially teens. You cannot be having them go through the roller coaster of fame, right? Even if it's just social media fame, there's got to be some protections with that. Age verification and enforcement. The platform has to tighten age assurance frameworks using operational system signals, according to The Verge. Scrub profiles belonging to kids under 13. Respond to 90% of teen harm reports within a strict 6-hour window. I think it should be 100%, but they're saying at least 90%. You got to get on it within 6 hours. And then there has to be independent auditing and all that. So there's a lot going on here. There are going to be separate damages. I believe there's a $942 million case from New Mexico. There's many families, local school districts. I think there's another independent child safety trial in the state of Tennessee, and there might be some other things, more coming out. But this 17 billion is, just the tip of the iceberg. And these TikToks and Twitch and all these other things that attract people, and this is now their community. You used to go outside on the playground. You used to meet in the cul-de-sac or in the apartment. We would meet in the apartment laundry room. This is now where people meet and do things. And so parents are not going to be able to just say, okay, well, Meta is going to handle things now because of the lawsuit. You need to be very involved, and you need to make sure you're doing your supervision as well. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Hi, guys. Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877-Dr. Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Okay, this is going to be something that I know is going to be extremely, this is going to be extremely controversial. I know a lot of people are going to be pretty upset that more doctors aren't talking about this. And in the medical community, we have got to be open-minded. In the medical community, we have got to look at data. We've got to look at studies, and we need to call for more studies when more studies are warranted. And so since the COVID-19 vaccine rollout, many people were distrustful of that technology. Even though mRNA technology had been around for a while, the COVID vaccine was a new vaccine, right? COVID was new. It was leaked August 2019, makes it to America, starts this massive outbreak in end of November, December, January 2020. Thankfully, the lives that we were losing in copious amounts in early 2020 started to curtail. One, from the natural progression of disease, but also because we had vaccines at the end of 2020, early 2021. But the question remained, did we study this enough? Now, each time we hear of a celebrity death, people bring up, did they get the vaccine? Oh, he's going to ask that. Dr. Dahlia, did they get the COVID vaccine or not? Okay, well, we know that some people publicly got the vaccine. Many people did. It was mandated. You couldn't even see your family member in a hospital in some places if you didn't get the vaccine. You couldn't go to a Raiders game. I had friends who wanted to go to the Raiders game, and they wouldn't let them in unless they got the shot. So a good portion of the population got it. My thinking at the time was, we are dealing with so much unknown. And I got the vaccine because my concern was COVID itself would be more harmful to me than the vaccine. And that is why I got the vaccine. And because the COVID virus, I thought, had the potential to be oncogenic, meaning could cause cancer. It was a crapshoot. Do I get the vaccine to protect myself? Or do I get COVID and try to avoid vaccine side effects? And I noticed for my body, I don't like COVID and I don't like the vaccine. So I don't like either. So right now I'm just kind of at a standstill. However, we have not necessarily had any studies saying outright that the COVID vaccine has caused cancer. We have had studies show that there were cardiac risks with the spike proteins. How the mRNA vaccine worked is it introduces mRNA into your cell. Your cell's cytoplasm takes it, learns it, turns the mRNA, uses that mRNA to transcribe and make spike proteins. Those spike proteins get then displayed and get presented onto the cell surface. Your body's immune system learns it. Because it's not real COVID, you're not going to get COVID-related effects, but you might, get an immune response. These spike proteins teach your body that when real COVID comes, what real COVID looks like to fight it off. Brilliant technology, but a lot of people are like, how do we know it's safe? One study that came out this year is drawing a lot of concern. And these researchers are saying, guys, we really need to study if there could be cancer linked to the vaccine. So the study was done by Italian and American researchers. It's called Exploring the Potential Link Between mRNA COVID-19 Vaccinations and Cancer, a case report with a review of hematopoietic malignancies with insights into pathogenic mechanisms. So they're looking at blood cancer. This was published this February in OncoTarget. And we have people from Milan, Texas, in this study, Japan, from Osaka Metropolitan University School of Medicine, another Japanese, and then another Italian head researcher in this. So we're looking at a U.S., Japan, Italy study. And the article investigated the potential association between modified mRNA COVID-19 vaccines and the development of hematopoietic cancers. They present a case involving a healthy young athletic woman who developed acute lymphoblastic leukemia and lymphoblastic lymphoma following her second dose of Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. They say this case is part of an expanding body of literature documenting similar occurrences after mRNA vaccines. They critically examine them. They say emerging evidence suggests that the biodistribution and persistence of mod RNA, facilitated by lipid nanoparticles, can affect various tissues and organs, including the bone marrow and other blood-forming organs. They say notably these vaccines exhibit a particular affinity for the bone marrow, potentially influencing the immune system at multiple levels and triggering both autoimmune disorders and neoplastic process. In this article, they assess the risk of developing these cancers post-vaccine based on scientific literature. So what did they conclude? All right, well, what they concluded is how we need to research it. In fact, they gave a very strong urging of this. They say that the development and widespread use of these vaccines have raised significant concerns globally, leading to adverse events and complications in both healthy individuals and those with pre-existing conditions. Reports of increased cases of a variety of cancers, including highly aggressive cancers and the unexpected recurrence of cancers after decades of remission, have been independently noted by oncology experts and research worldwide, with several publications. So when we keep hearing there's no studies linking cancer, but then you have researchers showing and linking these studies. All right, we got to really look at our web search engines going, okay, are you, allowing access to this? Now, RFK Jr. has been a strong proponent of let's get the data to the public. Let's let them make an informed decision. So they continue, because I want to read to you their results and discussion as quickly as I can. They say, although regulated as vaccines, anti-COVID mod RNA vaccines, are calling them, also meet the definition of GTPs, gene therapy products, which have been associated with tumor induction. Understanding the mechanisms behind the carcinogenic effects of these vaccines is crucial. Immune system alterations, IgG4 class switching, and notably T-cell suppression, the decreased production of IFN type 1, interference with oncosuppressor genes and proteins. So when our cells sometimes start to turn cancers, we have a mechanism. We used to, know more specifically tumor necrosis factor, but there's other factors that will come and stop that cell from turning cancerous. Their concern is, could these vaccines inhibit your inhibitors? And therefore, if you are so what they're saying is although some theories are that it could directly cause cancer by affecting the bone marrow, other theories are when you just are naturally starting to go through the changes of age and cancer, are your cancer fighting properties now dulled as a result. So that's something they want looked at as well. Inhibition of DNA repair mechanisms, inhibition of apoptosis and overexpression of cell death proteins in T cells, etc. So they say the detection of hazardous and unexplained contamination of the vaccines with plasmid DNA sequences deriving from the manufacturing process needs to be investigated. So even if it's not just the way the vaccine was made or the way your body handles it, are we looking at the process to make sure there's not contamination and that could possibly affect something? So they say here, what is the purpose of the addition of a mammalian promoter and nuclear targeting sequencing from the SV40 oncovirus and the plasmid used in the manufacturing of the Pfizer vaccine, supposedly meant to only be used to grow copies in bacteria where a mammalian promoter and obviously a nuclear targeting sequence are not needed? So they're like, why are we then using those? Why? Because they think it enhances transfection efficiency and gene expression. So they're looking at these things going, these are things that need to be looked at. They say also looking at the broader issue of double-stranded DNA contamination, its integration to the host genome is also a concern. So they say these guidelines highlight the theoretical risk of tumorigenesis through these fragments, and they urge the carcinogenic risk. They go, it's therefore crucial to perform extensive pharmacodynamic, pharmacokinetic, genotoxicity evaluations, as well as population-based observational studies in order to assess a potential carcinogenic risk posed by the genetic vaccines and to understand their pathogenic mechanism. We'll talk more about it, but they're saying exactly what needs to be said. Let's do more studies. Okay, let's look at it. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. You know, we've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. You know, these studies saying what is the best state to live in. You know, I don't really like these studies. I think Wallet Hub is really, really cool. You know, I like, you know, reading a lot of what Wallet Hub has, but I don't like these studies because if you can't move, you know, I mean, what good is this doing? The best states to live in. And I got to tell you, I live in Nevada. I love it. Nevada has been so good to me. I don't care where you're going to rate Nevada. According to Wallet Hub, choosing where to live is one of the biggest decisions you'll make, from housing costs, job opportunities, to education, safety, overall quality of life. Where do they think we should live? The top 5 states, looking at 51 key indicators of livability, housing affordability, income growth, educational attainment, and hospital quality, is Idaho, number 1, New Jersey, Wisconsin, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. For livability, housing affordability, income growth, educational attainment, and hospital quality. Now, I got to tell you, hospital quality, that is important. Now that I'm getting older, my husband is always like, we could sell our home, move to the Midwest, buy, a small 2,000 square foot house, cash then, right? And not have to worry about a house payment. Have more, land around us so we could have some animals, right? More pets, and we could live comfortably. And the first thing I ask him is, where's the nearest hospital? Where will we go? Where's the nearest medical? Then the next question I ask is, where's the beach? I need to be close to the beach, to California. And I live in Southern Nevada. So I could make it to the beach in 3 hours and 45 minutes if I only stop once to pee and make it quick. And yes, if I, evade certain speeding requirements and laws. So I'm not ready to. I love the Midwest. I visit the Midwest all the time because that's where a lot of my family lives. But I want to make sure that if, God forbid, we need to go somewhere, to the hospital, there's plenty of. I'm going to want to live in big city. I'll live in Kansas City. But to be out rural, I'm a little nervous about that. In fact, one of my good friends lived in rural Arkansas. And as a kid, he was having a severe asthmatic attack. And the ambulance, and where he lived was so remote, it was miles from the main road, that the ambulance told the parent to drive him to the main road to shave off like an extra 20 minutes each way, or 40-minute round trip to the actual house. So she had to drive this child who really needed to be, at the hospital, but she had to drive him to the main road so that the ambulance could pick him up and then race him to the, but it probably was about an hour and a half until he was able to get from home to hospital. That the response time of the paramedics is huge, but also then the driving time needs to be mitigated. So these are concerns that people have. Apparently, Idaho still is able to, Massachusetts, there's hospitals everywhere. Massachusetts, you're probably within a hospital 10, 20 minutes. Most places. So good for them. Looking at some of the other states, Washington ranked 33, Oregon 42, California ranked 31, Nevada ranked 45. Really? 45? Now, when you look at their affordability rank, their economy rank, the health rank, quality of life rank, safety ranks, they all differ. Like, Massachusetts had the highest education and health. Well, again, they got major medical centers. New Hampshire came in number 2 with economy. Number 1 was New York for quality of life. Really? Quality of life is number 1 in New York. That's interesting. Vermont got number 1 for the economy. And let me go down. Let me see. So the worst places to live, they say, the bottom 5 is Arkansas, Alaska, Mississippi, Louisiana, and New Mexico. New Mexico ranked the worst. And that's a shame. But interestingly, Mississippi ranked kind of high for affordability. And Arkansas ranked kind of high for affordability. Nevada ranked 39 in affordability, 45 in economy, education, and health. They ranked low. Quality of life was higher, though, for Nevada. For Nevada, the quality of life was 19. So that's good, because that's where I live. Alaska, affordability, they rank kind of low. It's kind of expensive in Alaska. Even though the homes are cheaper than other areas, I was kind of blown away at how some of the home pricing points are cheaper. It just, everything costs so much up there. And that makes sense, because it takes time to travel and all that. Alaska came in the worst from quality of life. Alaska struggles with that. To me, I love Alaska. In fact, that's where I'd like to retire. And I understand it gets cold and all that, but they got great medical centers. I got friends who live up there. I love to fish. I love nature. I love hiking. I love waterfalls. To me, I would think the quality of life would be amazing, but maybe the winters are just really bad. I gotta spend a winter there to really, really know. But, New Mexico, I've been to New Mexico. New Mexico gets a really, really bad rap. It's a beautiful state, but they always kind of seem to rank low with things. So the best places to live, again, there's multiple metrics and all that. Idaho, from what I'm hearing, is absolutely amazing. And I haven't visited Idaho, and I want to, especially want to do some hiking and backpacking and camping there. I've been to Jersey, never been to Wisconsin, been to Massachusetts, been to New Hampshire. So I've been to a lot of these states. Florida actually did really well. Florida ranked number 10 above New York. Montana, the Dakotas rounded out 14, 16, 17. And then Indiana, Kansas, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Colorado, the last upper 25. So, for those of you who are kind of like my age, where I'm not going anywhere, I got, okay, good. But what I like about this study, because I'm not moving. Okay, I don't care if we ranked 45 where I live. The thing though that I do like about these studies is, are we able to, are we really, really getting the most for our money where we're living? Am I overspending when I don't need to? Am I in the best area for my medical needs? The one thing I see as a doctor is the average person is not having a realistic understanding of what happens to them when they get sick. They drive by the hospital, beautiful building. They see the beautiful medical centers. They're spending thousands of dollars for their Obamacare card, health insurance. So they go, I'm good. Hospital is there. Pharmacy is there. Insurance card is here. I'm good. But when I actually talk to people who get sick, they're like, I'm in the parking lot. Hour number 5 of this ER. They can't see me yet. I need to be in the hospital. Do I call an ambulance and tell them I'm dying in the parking lot? What do I do? Yeah, I would really start to just use this as an opportunity to kind of take a look at what exactly your city is offering, what you have. And if there are cities, and this is a study I'd like to see, who has the lowest ER wait times, but has the highest chance of ER success? So you could be in a rural area where nobody uses the hospital. So so the hospital's fairly open, but does that hospital also have the abilities to do your, God forbid, cancer, surgery, things like that? So you might have a facility, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're able to. For example, we have now a lot of pop-up ERs. So you drive around, they say emergency room. And you're like, where's the hospital? And they call it an emergency room. And I get that because I've worked in urgent cares and ERs, and some of these urgent cares basically function as an ER. But does that mean you still have to be transferred somewhere? And what does that cost? So, interesting study. Don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-877 Dr. Dolly. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.